In this video, we're going to be getting into Flex redemptions, which are just around the corner, and also how to maximize your yield in the Flex protocol. So with no further ado, let me bring up my partner in crime, Mr. Just Ask Jesse in the house.
Hey, Matt. Hey, y'all.
Good to see you, man. You're fresh off the Pulse Chain conference, I think, this past weekend, right?
Mm-hmm. Had a huge turnout over there. It looked like 101 different speakers from all different walks of Pulse Chain showed up. So it was an interesting event and a bunch of rah-rah Pulse Chain.
Shout out to Matty Allin for flying the flag for Pulse Chain and all the other content creators. We're here today to also fly the flag for POWERCITY and talk about the Flex protocol, because if I'm not mistaken, redemptions are about to turn on very soon, right?
Yeah, I think we've got just about 6 or 7 hours left before redemptions turn on. And I'd like to talk about what that means real quick. How it's not always bad. So basically, people have placed collateral, and that collateral is Hex, and they've minted some stable coins. Now, to have a stable coin be able to maintain a good peg, there has to be a redemption mechanism, meaning no matter what's happening on DEXs, these stable coins have to have the ability to be redeemed for $1 worth of their underlying collateral, right? So you create these things, but you can also burn these stable coins out of existence and get back the original collateral, $1 for $1. This is how all great stablecoin protocols work. Now, what that means for the people who have vaults is the lowest collateralized vaults are the ones who would be redeemed against first. Now, that doesn't mean there will be redemptions. I mean, I'm sure there will be some, but there's a fee to do a redemption, a ratcheting fee. That fee goes up the more volume of redemptions happens. So sometimes it's better to go to a DEX and do a swap than it is to do a redemption. If you're looking to get out of the stablecoin and get back into that Hex, always try to go to a DEX or an aggregator or something, or a tool like we have, Portal X or Pateus or something like that. Don't assume that the only way out of that stablecoin is to click the redeem button, because that's not the case, and you won't always get the best rate. Now, redemptions are not always bad. There could even be strategies that people employ to exit some of their excess Hex, for example. This is something I really haven't talked about a lot, but imagine this. We got a lot of different whales in the system, right? A lot of different whales in Hex. They've earned an incredible amount of yield through staking, and some of those guys would like to take some of that yield off the table, right? Price irrelevant, right? It could be today's price, or maybe the price goes up over the next year, but at some point, people who have staked their Hex are going to want to realize some of those profits. And historically, what those people would do is they would dump, they would sell. And it's evidence in the chart right now. We see that Hex went from 56 cents, and it's like below a penny. Okay. Or, it's just below a penny right now. So that's literally from people selling and dumping the price down. A lot of that excess Hex that they were earning from yield. So a big factor in why we designed this protocol is to give alternatives. So if you're one of those guys who would like to take some value off the table, instead of having to go market dump it, further affecting the price on your existing Hex that's staked up, you can collateralize it and take a loan and mint some stable coins. It could also be a way for you to, so that's like an exit, right? Now, if that was your goal, to exit some of that Hex, perhaps some of those people would have collateralized at a lower collateral health, so that if there was a redemption, they were redeemed against. It's similar to selling the Hex, because somebody's going to come in and redeem and get some of their hex out of their vault. But they're not selling it on PulseX. They're not dumping the price to get out of hex. They're simply creating a vault. They're minting some stable coins. And if somebody later on comes along and they say, hey, I've got some stable coins I'd like to redeem, they're redeeming them one stable coin for $1 for the hex that comes out of the lowest collateralized vaults. And all that transfer of coins from this wallet to that wallet is happening kind of like an OTC almost, and it's not even affecting the price. Okay, so it's a way to exit a position, or it's a way to get into a loan. Perhaps there's tax advantages depending on where you live for obtaining a loan, as opposed to just selling off some gains you might have. There's all sorts of reasons why you might want to use this protocol. The piece I haven't even begun to talk about yet is all the yield you can make with those stable coins or with those flex tokens you're earning and staking for the fees. Starting tomorrow, those people who are staking flex tokens, for example, who have already been collecting HexDC whenever somebody mints new HexDC, whenever there's a redemption, those flex stakers will be collecting hex now. So the stakers of flex might be people who simply like HexDC. You go do whatever you want with that, but they also are people looking to get some free hex every day, or every time there's a redemption, right? So we'll see how that goes tomorrow. Hex flowing to those stakers starts when redemptions start here in about 7 hours or so.
Fantastic. There's also another point I'd like to touch on, because I think a lot of people understand how Flex works, how Earn works, and how liquid loans works. But some people still hear liquidations and they get worried that things are going to be sold on the open market, and that's not right. The stability pool will actually absorb those liquidations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when people hear liquidations, they, just like you said, they think, some of this collateral, this hex is going to hit like an auction or something. It's going to go to a single wallet address, and then that person is going to go dump it, right? Because they got it at a discount and they're going to dump it. And while that's true for some other protocols, that's not true for Liquidity or Liquidity Forks. The capital to purchase the debt is in place ahead of time. It's in the stability pool ahead of it and before the collateral ever migrates, right? So in the event there's a liquidation, here's what happens. Let's say a vault gets down to 110% collateral health, right? That vault gets liquidated. That hex from that vault simply moves and gets spread across hundreds and hundreds of participants in the stability pool, who all collect a little bit of that hex, all proportionally. They already had the capital to pay that debt in the form of HexDC, which burns itself proportionally to buy that debt. But they do pick up that hex at a 10% discount. But it's all proportional, and they all collect just a little bit, right? So one guy might burn, his account might burn one HexDC, and he picks up $1.10 worth of hex. Okay. Is that guy then going to spend all the time to go to his vault or to go to his stability pool position, withdraw hex at $1.10, and then go market dump it to make 10 cents? No, it's way too much work. And because it's proportional and it's happening across hundreds or even thousands of participants, usually some of that may sell. Some of those participants may go withdraw that hex, go sell it or whatever. But the key is not all of them. Okay. There's hundreds or thousands of people in there. And even if only 25% or 10% withdraw and go dump that hex, that leaves 90% of it that wasn't market dumped like it would have been in some other protocols. Or had the guy who had the vault to begin with, if he had just went and sold his hex because he didn't want it anymore, he would have sold the whole position. He would have just dumped the whole 100% of his position. But here, only a fraction, if any of it, would ever end up at the very end of this getting sold on the market.
Gotcha. So we know that redemptions are turning on, in 6 hours or so, like you said, and also that means that stakers are going to be getting more rewards. So that leads nicely into let's touch again on the ways to make yield with the Flex protocol, because we know you can mint your Hex DC, but then obviously you can be a stability provider and a staker, etc.
Yep. So anybody who has Hex DC, doesn't matter how they got it, you can buy it. You can just go buy some Hex DC if you want, or you can mint your own. Okay. You can stake that Hex DC in the stability pool. And you're putting it in there so that in the event there's a liquidation, you pick up some discounted Hex. Right. Some of your Hex DC would burn. You would pick up some Hex at a 10% discount. You'd be up 10% on the versus the amount of Hex DC you burned. But liquidations don't even happen all the time. I mean, the lowest collateral health, we'd have to look at the liquidations tab. Look at that for a second. All right. So you got a guy at 120%. Okay. If Hex goes down another 10%, and that guy hasn't moved his position, let's see, $3,537 would get liquidated plus 10%. But that's going to get spread across tons of people. Like there's way over $1 million in the stability pool. So like it's so minuscule to each one of those people. I do suspect that the collateral health will increase starting tomorrow. The average is sitting at 200 right now. But 120%, I mean, these people, you could say they're taking risks, but that's where they're comfortable at. They think Hex may have bottomed, or then again, these are people who are looking to exit out of their Hex anyway without necessarily harming the price. Okay. So that's why you'd be in the stability pool. You're looking to get some of any, if any, liquidated Hex. But because that doesn't happen all the time, there's an alternative incentive that's also being emitted out to all the stability depositors, and that's these Flex tokens. There's 31,176,000 Flex left in that pool that's being emitted at an ever decreasing rate. It just slows down forever. So every single block, a little bit less of it than the previous block gets emitted. All right.
With an APR of nearly 60%, 59.42% at the moment.
Yeah. So you, at the moment, you put, 100 stable coins in there. And if the APR stayed the same, about a year from now, you'd have, $160 worth of value. All right. So for doing something with stable coins, that's pretty good yield. 60% is nothing to laugh at with stable coins. Now, those Flex tokens, they're being emitted out to these stability depositors, and what they can do with them, or anybody who buys it, you can buy Flex on the open market as well. You can stake them. You stake them in the staking pool, and now anytime somebody takes a loan out, they're minting Hex DC, you're going to get a piece of that Hex DC. Whenever there's a redemption, you're going to get some Hex. So remember, the stakers of the Flex token are collecting Hex DC, and they're also collecting Hex. One of those stakers of Flex token are the participants in the core. There's actually a smart contract to all the Watt core stakers. They actually have a position staked as a whole in the staking pool, just as info. And those people have collected so far Hex DC $9,498. And starting in 7 hours, they'll all start collecting some Hex as well. There's also some yield plays you could do with liquidity providing. We have a number of liquidity pools that are incentivized that are also emitting Flex tokens, which why do you want those? So you can go stake them for the fees. Ever decreasing rate in the stability pool, by the way, that decreases at a rate where it halves itself annually. It's block by block, but it halves itself annually. The whale guys who wish to participate in the stability pool, there's actually a chance that those the strongest participants in the stability pool could have a large sum of flex tokens, and if those people chose to not sell them, it's very hard for other people to get their hands on it. So will there ever come a day where there's 10, 20, 100, 200 wallet addresses that are collecting the majority of the fees because they decided to participate in the stability pool early on and get the lion's share of the flex tokens? There could be, right? The flex token is in its emission right now. It is being emitted, and there are people that are selling it. You can see that in the chart. But the people who are not selling it, who are collecting it, could end up with the lion's share of those things staked in the staking pool, collecting the fees. And if those guys aren't willing to get rid of it, they just want that passive income for the rest of eternity. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that might do to the price of Flex in the future. We'll have to see. Just be aware that over time, those Flex tokens become harder and harder and harder to get your hands on because of the halving schedule that it's on.
And that runs for 369 days since the launch of the protocol, correct?
Mm-hmm. 369 days, 369. Yep.
369. So we can also see an incentive for PulseX and Earn LP staking too, which has already ended over on the Earn protocol, but now is incentivized here, right, too?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Earn protocol had incentives that were a little short. And had it not been for this protocol, it would have been challenging for us to lengthen those incentives. But because this protocol, Flex, has its own emission of a token called Flex or whatever, we said, well, PulseX Earn needs some additional incentives. Let's go ahead and emit Flex tokens to those people and add them into the mix so we can have a good PulseX Earn pool over in PulseX, right? We didn't want that pool to dry up and then hear people say, oh, the liquidity is too low. Where'd all the liquidity go? How come the team isn't adding liquidity? Remember, this is a community protocol. So our job is to simply come up with methods for the community to participate more strongly. And that's what we did with this PulseX Earn pool being emitted Flex tokens.
Awesome. So to reiterate what we've talked about today, in about 6 hours time, redemptions turn on in the Flex protocol. If you're a staker, you'll also see Hex coming now in rewards as well as Hex DC. And the current ways to make yield in the Flex protocol is going to be becoming a stability provider, staking your Flex tokens, and then also we've got these 3 LP staking options where you can farm Flex for up to 369 days. Anything else you want to touch on, Jesse, before we wrap it up?
Nope, that sums it up for today. I'm interested to look what the protocol looks like tomorrow after these redemptions go live.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and we will catch you next week when we talk about some more stuff and give the community an update.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. And thanks for watching, guys. And if you want to find out more about the Flex protocol, you can find the link in the description box below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.